Hello. So for today's video I'm set up somewhat slightly differently to how I normally set up during my videos, because this one is going to be about how to colour in forward images, or how I colour in forward images, and what you can use to colour them. So I really needed an overhead setup so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I've foiled various types of cardstock with the same image, and I've done some swatches to look at what card and what properties you're looking for in card to actually make it a good choice for colouring and foiling. So I've used a selection of, I've got one of my nice Zig Cling Colour pens here as one of my options. I've got a watercolour pencil. I've got a selection of inks. I've got Versacolour, which is a pigment ink. I've got some Distress ink. I've got some Irons ink dye-based ink. I've got, what else have I got? And I've got a small set of watercolour paints. And then I've got some extra inks that are from Distress Inks Reinkers, just to look at different colour combinations and how you might use them. So I've done some preparation. So I've got in my stash, and I'm not here to sell you card, I've literally just pulled out what I normally use and looked at the differences. So this one is a watercolour card. It's by Pink Frog, but as I say, I'm not here to sell you card. But if I don't say what it is, someone's going to ask. So just trying out the different things on a swatch of card to see how well they blend. And then I've done the same for different types of card. I started with this one. This is a multimedia cardstock. And one of the big differences I found is in when I use the pen. I put the colour down first and then I try and blend it out. On some of my cardstock, and it's done the same on this one, it kind of fixes in place and then won't blend out properly to give me a smooth blend. You can always see the patch that I coloured within the overall colour. Okay, so basically to try out your cardstock, literally just take a small piece of the card you're thinking of using and the medium you're thinking of colouring with. So for example, if I take my pen, oh, and I also use water brushes. So I've got a Jane Davenport one, and I've got some that came from Middle of Lidl. They're really good value, and I can't quite remember where this came from. Oh, it's a Pentel one, so I think it probably came with something else. But just water. So basically, if I put down some colour and then I take my water brush and I just try and blend it out, you can see it's fixed in place where I coloured on that one. Just going to clean my brush. But if I take the Super Smooth card and use the same pen, put some ink down, and then I can blend it out completely. So you might want to try that out before you start. Now with some of the mediums it doesn't matter, but I tend to use my colouring pens quite a lot. So for me that's important to know. So let's have a look at the images. So this is the one on the multimedia cardstock, which was this one. And on this one I labelled on this one all the different types of things I've tried, and in the others I've just done them in exactly the same places. So on this one it would be a mistake to try and use a pen because it's not going to blend out properly, but I could use some dye inks. Okay, so what I would do then is I would take my choice of dye ink, and I'm going to go with this is Rusty Hinge Distress Ink, and I'm just going to put this down on my mat next to where I'm colouring, just so I can pick up with my brush pen, basically pick it up and start in the centre of your flower so you get the darkest colour there. You might want to work some off your brush and then gradually work out so that the colour gets lighter towards the edges. If I want it a bit darker, I can put some more on. And you can always clean your brush to get rid of if you've got too much ink. Colour in. And if you want to, you can blend colours together. So if I take, I've got gathered twigs here as well. So if I put that down next to it, I'm just going to turn that slightly so you can see I've got two inks. So if I want really dark in the middle, I can use that. And if I want the other flower darker, I can put a bit of this at the base, clean my brush, pick up the other colour, and then blend the two. Small the origin. Just cleaning my brush in between picking up the colours. So I end up with a darker shade. Okay, so that's using stamping inks essentially. Doesn't really matter whether or not they're dye inks or pigment inks, so long as they're water based. Right, you wouldn't want to use alcohol inks or something like a StazOn. It must be a water based ink. Okay, doesn't matter if I go over my lines because the foil will resist the ink and the water. Okay, so I've ended up doing the whole thing here, wasn't going to. I can just lightly colour it in. There we go. So there you can see how you get the feeling of dimension, and sometimes the blends look even better once it's dried. Okay, so what have I got next? I've got, so watercolour card. Now if I'm going to be using lots of water on something, you do want to consider the cardstock you're using. And I did also do an experiment on photocopy paper, but you can see how wrinkled that is. And it absolutely grabbed the water from my brush. So perhaps with this one, I'll go for some watercolour paint. So let me just mop up my my mess here before I put my fingers in it. Right. So I've got a little watercolour tin here. I'm just going to put down beside me. And this would be quite good if I maybe want some stronger colour, or even if I just want a wash. So what I tend to do then is get the colour going, and then usually on my glass mat just let the water mix with it a bit, and then I can go around, put some colour where I want it the darkest, and then clean the brush, clean the water brush, and then just kind of pull that out to colour in. In that way it will end up darkest where you put the colour down to begin with. But you can always go back and add a bit more colour if you want it darker. Watercolour is quite forgiving in this way. You can see how I'm just moving the colour around, and I can pick up a bit more colour and put it in the middle, and it will just bleed out and then move itself out into any wet area. And you see I'm not being careful to stay in the lines except at the very edges, because the let's say that the foil resists the water and the paint in it. So as long as it's water-based watercolour paint, you'd need to be much more careful if you decided to water down some acrylic paint, because that would stick to the foil. Once it's dry you wouldn't be able to get it off. Just cleaning my brush and just moving some colour around. And you can see this doesn't really take very long. Stick one on the top here. Just gonna hopefully put that in. Put some more colour in the middle. Around the base of the flower. And that's really all there is to it. I'm going to put some darker colour in there, because that one's kind of hiding behind the other flower. Really quick and easy to colour. Now if I am using my water-based pens, then I do it a different way. So you can, with a water-based pen, you can put it down on a palette, on a glass mat, on a piece of acrylic block, something like that, and then colour from there in the same way as you would with your inks. Or you can colour onto your, as long as your ink will move nicely, you can put some ink down, take your water brush, just pull it out. If you think the colour's too strong, clean your brush and then move it some more. So this is quite good if you've got a very detailed image where you need to be much more careful what colour you're putting where. And you don't have to be using the brand of pens that I'm using. Any water-based pens will do a similar job. These have there's a high quality pens, and basically the depth of colour in their ink is stronger than you'd get in some cheaper ones. And it's a really nice real brush nib. I'm just going to move that out a bit, and then I'm going to clean my brush because I picked up lots of ink on it, and then I'm going to spread that out some more. Clean the brush again. enough ink on my brush there just to finish off. In fact, I've probably got enough ink on the brush to do this bud up here. And then if I decide I need a bit more colour, but I've got a wet surface, so I don't want to put my pen on it, I can scribble on my mat and just pick up a bit of colour from there. So over up here, let's put some more colour in here, put more in that bit, blend it out, and I've missed that bit. Okay. So that's how I use my water-based pens. I haven't put a centre in. Perhaps I could use my my nice orange ink. So you don't have to do everything with one type of medium. Put that bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I put down some more of my distress ink. Pick that up. Put a nice orange centre in the flower. Okay, so there's another one. So then coming to using watercolour pencils. It's a very similar technique to when I'm using pens. But I'm going to have a scrap of watercolour card next to me. Now, this particular card is the one that, it's this one. So the pen kind of fixed in place, but the pencil didn't, not so much. So I'm going to have a go at using watercolour pencil on this one. But if I want to pick up some colour, I can't scribble on my glass mat. That doesn't work. But if I've got a spare piece of card, I can scribble on the card, and then I can always pick some colour up from there. But for most of my colour, I'm going to use my pencil on my dry card and just put some colour in where it would be darkest. And I normally work on one flower at a time. A little bit down there. And then with the water brush, the colour actually almost comes alive. What have I done with me? Let's keep a piece of tissue to clean the brush. Okay, so I'm just going to go at this first petal, and I'm going to activate the colour with the water. Move it out as far as I want, and then when I think I've got too much colour, clean my brush and blend again. Same here, activate the colour and then blend it out. So from time to time I'm cleaning my brush so not too much colour builds up on the water brush. Otherwise you lose the blend. More out there. And then I need some more colour in the back here. And as I say, if I decide I need more colour, but I can't, because it's wet, I can't go back in with the pencil, I can pick some up off my card and just come in, make that bit darker. Just going to blend that a bit more. So there's the watercolour pencil technique. So it's a case of using whatever you've got and having, as I say, I use a water brush. You could use a paintbrush. I don't think you'll get the control over the amount of water in the same way. So there we have it. Lots of different ways you can colour your foiling. Best thing is to get some scraps of whatever card you've got, try the different mediums on them, seeing if they move with the water, and seeing how good the card is also for foiling onto. Okay, thank you for watching.